By no means is it too late for several league-altering trades to transpire.
They've got weapons. They got a ton of weapons, but a Davante Adams, the best friend of your quarterback,
Yes.
makes too much sense.
You know, I have so much love and respect for Davante and feel like he's the best receiver in the league.
We are 2 months into the 2024 NFL offseason now. So here are 10 blockbuster trade ideas that would completely shake up the rest of the NFL offseason. Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers reunite in NYC. Adams has tried to dispel rumors about his desire to be traded. Even if he wants to stay in Sin City, remember that it only takes one can't-refuse offer for the Las Vegas Raiders to just go against Adams' wishes. You may recall that the New York Jets inquired about Adams' availability ahead of the 2023 NFL trade deadline, but the Raiders just weren't willing to do business. Well, the Jets are strictly in win-now mode for Aaron Rodgers, so GM Joe Douglas should be even more motivated than ever to make a trade. And at this stage, the retooling Raiders might be open to dealing a pricey receiver who's on the wrong side of 30. The Jets are already contenders with Aaron Rodgers, but just imagine if he is reunited with the best receiver he's ever thrown to. An offense with Rodgers, Adams, Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, and Breece Hall would be the deepest in the AFC and put New York that much closer to a Super Bowl. Adams ain't gonna come cheap, but the Jets have to be aggressive if they want to give Rodgers the best chance of winning. A 2025 second-round pick and a conditional 2025 fourth-rounder that can maybe become a third, that would be a fair price for the future Hall of Famer. The Steelers swing for the fences, land Brandon Ayuk. The San Francisco 49ers superstar receiver was brought up aplenty in trade rumors during the draft weekend, but GM John Lynch never received an offer for his liking. Ideally, San Francisco would reach an extension with Ayuk and keep him on the West Coast long-term. But if the deal doesn't materialize, the 49ers would be wise to trade Ayuk and get max value instead of potentially losing him for nothing. The Pittsburgh Steelers need another weapon after trading Deontay Johnson to the Carolina Panthers, and the additions of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields at QB indicate that Pittsburgh is looking to win now. Retooling time is over. George Pickens is a rising star receiver, but the Steelers must find another game-changing pass catcher if they're to contend in an unforgiving AFC. And a player like Ayuk can take the Steelers from playoff contender to Super Bowl contender. A 2025 first-round pick should be enough to close out a deal for Ayuk. San Fran would prefer to deal him to an AFC team, and few clubs are going to be as willing to part with a day-one pick, making Pittsburgh the perfect fit for Ayuk. Packers finally unite with T. Higgins. Everyone was shocked when the Green Bay Packers traded up into the number 26 spot to select Utah State QB Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers was still in his prime. Also, not to mention that the Pack needed another receiver opposite Davante Adams. Now, on one hand, Love did establish himself as a franchise QB after sitting behind Rodgers for 3 years. On the other hand, some fans just can't help but wonder if drafting a stud wideout like Higgins or Michael Pittman Jr. might have helped the Packers win another Super Bowl before Rodgers left. Oh well, there's no changing the past now, but the Packers can sure brighten their future. Love had a phenomenal 2023 season despite lacking a true number one playmaking receiver. So how about changing that now? Higgins requested a trade from Cincinnati ahead of the NFL draft, but no deal came to fruition. You can understand his desire to get paid. Plus, Higgins deserves to be a number one receiver instead of playing second fiddle to Jamar Chase forever. So let's put an end to the Higgins saga once and for all by putting him on a Super Bowl contending team that will actually use him as their number one receiver. Higgins to the Packers for 2025 second and fourth round picks should get the deal done. In this scenario, the Pack hands Higgins a long-term extension to ensure that Love has his WR1 for years to come. Trey Hendrickson joins Falcons flock. Minutes before the news of Higgins' trade request went public, it was reported that Bengals teammate and star defensive end Trey Hendrickson asked for a trade. We know that the Bengals are trying to win now with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, but you can't afford to lose both Higgins and Hendrickson for nothing in free agency. They have to get something for both of them, and Hendrickson would score a quality return on the trade market. Perhaps no team makes more sense for Hendrickson than the Atlanta Falcons. Incredibly, the team hasn't had a player hit double-digit sacks since Vic Beasley in 2016. The Falcons baffled everybody when they used the number 8 pick on Washington QB Michael Penix Jr. since, there was a pressing need for pass rushing help. Well, GM Terry Fontenot can get the best of both worlds by trading for the 3-time Pro Bowler. Atlanta's signing of Kirk Cousins in free agency shows that they want to compete now. So, why not complement that move for a game-wrecking edge rusher who posted a career-high 17.5 sacks last season? As Hendrickson is about to turn 30 and on the final year of his deal, Overall, a 2025 third-round pick seems like a fair compensation for the Bengals. If the Falcons can reach an agreement on an extension with Hendrickson beforehand, well, then they could throw in another mid-round pick for him. Courtland Sutton completes Bills' WR makeover. The Buffalo Bills have been a great enigma this offseason. Though they're supposed to be competing for a Super Bowl, the team curiously traded away superstar wide receiver Stephon Diggs to the Houston Texans, one of Buffalo's main challenges in the AFC. Buffalo let number 2 receiver Gabe Davis leave in free agency and replaced him with Curtis Samuel, a player who has never topped 851 receiving yards in a single season. Then Buffalo traded down from the number 28 spot to let the arch-rival Kansas City Chiefs select Texas wideout Xavier Worthy. After moving down in a separate trade with the Carolina Panthers, Buffalo finally got another receiver in Florida State's Keon Coleman with the number 33 pick. It is hard to envision the idea of a Samuel-Coleman receiving duo helping Buffalo get over the hump in the AFC. So, how about adding one more proven star for Josh Allen to ensure that his offense remains a juggernaut without Diggs? The rebuilding Denver Broncos cut Russell Wilson and gave top receiver Jerry Jeudy away to the Cleveland Browns for pennies. Surely they'd be open to dealing former 1,000-yard receiver Courtland Sutton for the right price. Jeudy only cost Cleveland 5th and 6th round picks, so we'll propose the idea of Buffalo offering up its 2025 4th round pick and a 2026 6th round pick to the Broncos for Sutton, who would easily set career highs with Allen throwing him the football. Suddenly, the Bills' offense looks better with Sutton, Coleman, and Samuel replacing Davis and Diggs. Denver would be getting 2 draft picks to help their rebuild, making this trade just a win-win for everyone involved. Buda Baker heads to Jacksonville. The Jacksonville Jaguars had the 26th ranked pass defense last season, and GM Trent Baalke didn't do a whole lot to address it this offseason. We assumed Jacksonville would use a first-round pick on a defensive back, but they instead selected LSU wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. Now, that was a good value pick, but how about addressing your roster weaknesses via the trade market? Arizona Cardinals 6-time Pro Bowler Buda Baker would be the perfect fit for a Jaguars team that's trying to make that jump to a Super Bowl contender. Baker is heading into the final year of his deal, and the retooling Redbirds don't seem so keen on extending him long-term. The 2-time first-team All-Pro does it all as a safety. He's an excellent ball hawker who can line up in the slot and rush the QB when the occasion calls for it. That is exactly the piece Jacksonville needs to combat the long list of elite QBs in the AFC. Jacksonville has 2 third-round picks for 2025. They can offer that up to Arizona for Baker, who would immediately turn this secondary into a far more potent unit. This trade also works for a Cardinals team that will otherwise be losing Baker for no trade compensation in free agency. Khalil Mack lands with the other Harbaugh. There was speculation that the Los Angeles Chargers would either trade or release Khalil Mack, but the two sides wound up agreeing on a restructured deal for the final season of his contract. It's hard to envision the Chargers extending an injury-prone player who will be 34 next year. The Bolts are also in a retooling phase, so it makes sense to trade the 2016 Defensive Player of the Year and just get the best possible return now. The Baltimore Ravens lost several key players on defense this offseason, including front 7 mainstays Jadeveon Clowney and Patrick Queen. If Jim Harbaugh's Bolts are willing to part with Mack, who better to acquire him than John Harbaugh's Ravens? Baltimore is coming off its first trip to the AFC title game in the Lamar Jackson era. However, they were undone by a mediocre pass rush that couldn't consistently get to Patrick Mahomes. Mack posted a personal best 17 sacks last season. He won't do that again, but the 8-time Pro Bowler is still a complete game changer who just might be that final piece of a potential championship puzzle for Baltimore. Mack to the Ravens for 2025 4th and 2026 5th round picks feels like a deal that kind of works for everyone. The Chargers get something for the star pass rusher, while Baltimore lands a future Hall of Fame talent who could help Jackson and company get to the Super Bowl once and for all. Cowboys finally go all in for Alvin Kamara. Yeah, we're still waiting for Jerry Jones to actually show that the Dallas Cowboys are really all in. Losing plenty of key starters is not going all in, and failing to make one blockbuster trade or free agent splash is also not going all in. Well, how about giving the New Orleans Saints a call and seeing if do-it-all running back Alvin Kamara can be had? I mean, come on. Jerry doesn't actually think that Ezekiel Elliott will return to his RB1 form, right? Come on, right? Look, the Saints are up against the cap and should be very motivated to clear some salary. Kamara puts up over 1,000 yards a season, sure, but he's also entering his age 29 campaign and has missed time every single year since 2018. Kamara fits the Cowboys' competitive window since they're trying to win with Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons now. And you know that he would cost a whole lot in a trade, given his age and salary. Jamal Williams and 2023 third-round pick Kendre Miller should be able to keep the Saints' ground game going without Kamara. So sending the 5-time two-time Pro Bowler to Dallas for a 5th-round pick feels like a pretty logical move for all parties involved. Kamara can be the RB1 on a playoff contending team in Dallas, while the Saints clear much-needed cap room ahead of the season. This just makes way too much sense for everybody involved. Patrick Surtain II to 49ers. The 49ers are the most complete team in the NFC. If there is one thing that they're missing, it's a Pro Bowl level shutdown cornerback. You saw how much Jordan Love, Jared Goff, and Patrick Mahomes picked apart the 49ers secondary in the postseason. As great as Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Charvarius Ward, and Talanoa Hufanga are, they just can't do it alone against top-tier offenses. The Denver Broncos seem ready for a tear-it-all-down rebuild, and their top trade chip is all-pro cornerback Patrick Surtain. A team that's built to win now and over the next 5 years like San Fran should be all over Surtain if he's available on the trade market. Seeing that Jalen Ramsey fetched the Jaguars 2 first-round picks in the 2019 trade with the Los Angeles Rams, I think it's safe to guess that the Broncos would seek a similar return for the 24-year-old Surtain. So, how about this as your win-now move, San Fran? Trading 2025 first and 2026 first-round picks to Denver for a top 5 corner in the game. Now, your already elite defense is unquestionably number 1 in football. And you have a guy to deal with Mahomes if you face him again in the Super Bowl. Simple. Chargers win the Deebo Samuel sweepstakes. Multiple reports indicate that the 49ers will trade or release Samuel by the time next offseason rolls around. If GM John Lynch wants to move on, you absolutely have to trade Samuel. His value is at its highest point, and plenty of teams should be interested in the former All-Pro services. Well, the Chargers just so happen to need a superstar receiver after cutting Mike Williams and trading Keenan Allen. With Justin Herbert squarely in his prime, this feels like the ideal opportunity for the Bolts to give him his long-term superstar receiver. And if San Fran wants to trade Samuel, you know that they would rather keep him out of the NFC. So, if the Bolts offer 2025 second and 5th round picks, that should be enough to seal the deal for the do-it-all weapon. But hey, what other NFL blockbuster trades do you want to see happen in the offseason? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, well, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.